Hello and welcome to ADHD Support Talk Radio. My name is Tara McGillicuddy and I am the co-host of ADHD Support Talk Radio. I would like to welcome our co-host Lynne Edris to our podcast. And in just a moment, we're going to be talking about dealing with changes when you have ADHD, some of the small changes and some of those big changes in life. So welcome back, Lynne. Before we get started, can you let our listeners know a bit about yourself? I know most of them know you by now, but just before we get started, and how to contact you.
Absolutely. So again, my name's Lynne Edris. I'm the co-host here on ADHD Support Talk, and I am a ADHD and productivity coach. So I empower professionals and entrepreneurs with ADHD to take control of their time and their lives so that they can fulfill their potential and have more time and energy for what matters most to them. And I'm a woman with ADHD myself, guys, so I get it. I've been there. I've done that. And I want you to have whatever version of success and fulfillment you want for yourself, because I believe that it is absolutely possible for you. You can learn more about me and what I do and the programs and services I offer at www.coachingadvantages.com. And Tara, you tell the listeners about you and where they can learn more about you.
I know, and I'm Tara McGillicuddy. I'm the founder, the creator of ADHD Support Talk Radio and other ADHD online resources. I've been involved in the community for over 2 decades now, pretty close to 25 years now, over 25 years now, I think at this point. And
wow.
And you can learn more about me and the services I offer by going to my website, taramcgillicuddy.com. And so, Lynne and I were talking about what we should discuss on this episode. And both of us have been going through some changes in our lives. Some good, well, both of us are good, the changes, but they're stressful. They, cause a lot of disruption in our lives. So I thought, since we're both going through changes, this is going to be a good topic to talk about, because when you have ADHD, transitions, changes in your life affect you differently than those without ADHD, than people who don't have ADHD.
Absolutely. Any kind of transition, any kind of change, any kind of interruption in your normal sort of flow or your normal rhythms, or just basically your life and how your life ebbs and flows is going to cause some disruption. And as Tara and I were talking before we started the recording, I'm in the middle of a big move, moving across the country. And it's a lot, right? Changes are a lot. Interruptions are a lot, and transitions are hard for us. And I think one of the things that I have to remind myself of, and I know I talk to clients about this all the time, but I have to remember it myself as well, is to lean on the things that I know support me, right? My systems, my tools, my processes, and to be really nice to myself, cut myself a break when I drop balls, when things are not, I'm using my quotey fingers, only Tara can see, not perfect, or not, going the way that I really want them to. I had mentioned before we started recording to Tara that something I had, kind of a ball I had dropped. And I think what Tara said to me was something like, if you weren't dropping balls,
then I'd be worried.
Then I'd be worried about you. Right. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things in general that we with ADHD need to be reminded of from time to time, is that we're not perfect.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect, but we should stop trying to expect ourselves to be. And I know for a lot of us, that kind of runs really deep.
And if we choose to make these changes, we can't, no matter how perfect it is on paper or the pragmatic approach, right, the strategies, what we don't often take into account, or maybe you can't even prepare yourself for this, is the emotional and energetic effect it's going to have on you. Everything could be going great on paper. You could have the perfect systems, but energetically and emotionally, there's a toll when you go through changes, whether it's major changes and even small changes can affect us. And I, talked about, I purchased a new car. I haven't had a new car in 12 and a half years. That's a big change. But also, I take Pilates. I've been doing it for a couple of years. And the place that I go to has been going through changes. So there's new instructors there. And for me, like, I don't always adjust well to change
Yes.
in that type of situation.
Right.
So I'm like, I just want to get out of there. I don't want to do it anymore. Not that I didn't like the new instructors, I just didn't connect with them. But for me, that's something that's what's so small is a couple instructors leaving for 1 hour a day class. I don't even go every day. But like, I didn't really give myself that permission at first to be like, okay, it's stressful for me because I connected with these people. They had a specific way. When somebody comes in and
Right.
uses different language on how to move my feet, that can really affect me. So
Right.
that's one of the things that it's so important that if you're going through any type of change, whether you're choosing to make that change or if somebody else made the change and it's affecting you, give yourself that permission that it's okay to have that uneasiness that
Yes.
yeah, that's I think we fight the uneasiness and we want to fix it, and sometimes you just have to be in that feeling of
Yeah.
uneasiness or whatever the correct word. Uneasiness might not be the best term. That's just the word that comes to
Right.
mind for me.
It's some sort of it's some sort of discomfort, right? And even if you're the change or whatever is coming is a good thing that you have control over, or if it's something that life has thrown at you,
Yep.
right? Resisting the change or resisting the feelings that are associated with the change generally isn't going to help you.
Yep.
So really, like being okay with that discomfort is not easy, but acknowledging that it's not just like, okay, it's to be expected, I think is important. And the thing that you brought up that really resonates with me, Tara, is the energy cost of all of this,
Yep.
like physical energy, emotional energy, but also like cognitively,
Mm-hmm.
like we anchor to different things. Every one of us does in our days and in our lives and in kind of how things flow. And anytime there's any disruption in the things that you anchor to, right? Like you're going to Pilates and you are used to the rhythm of the way
Mm-hmm.
the certain
Yep.
people teach and what to expect, and it gets comfortable and it gets easy, and I'm sure it wasn't super comfortable and super easy in the beginning, but it became that way. And then it becomes less comfortable or less familiar, or you have some sort of disruption in something that you cue to or something that you're used to, that costs a lot of cognitive energy too.
Yeah.
So when you're going through changes or disruptions or interruptions or whatever it is, any kind of transition, like sometimes it feels like ADHD really is rearing its head more often. Right. So I have
Yeah.
felt a lot more scattered. I'm definitely feeling the fatigue factor, like physical fatigue. I fatigue much more easily in the last few weeks than I have been normally, preparing for the move and all of that. All of the balls and all of the details and all the I's that need dotted and T's that need crossed, sometimes like exceeds my systems, but it has taken a toll on my brain as
Yeah.
well. Right.
Yeah.
So that I'm like, I really have to lean more on the things that I know help me and be okay with the fact that I'm going to be more ADHD-ish
Yeah.
right now than I appear to be to everyone else at other times. Because I know even my husband has said, like, you know, some things over the last couple of weeks about like what's your deal?
Yeah.
What's your deal? Like, I'm in sensory overload.
Yeah.
I'm in information overload. I'm in detail overload. And when I'm in overload, if I can't manage that overload real well, which, we're only human, you know,
Yeah.
some things that I struggle with are more of a problem than they would be otherwise.
So these are the times when it's essential to practice super self-care. And,
Extra
you and I know
self-care.
this, but we can still,
Right.
beat ourselves
Oh,
up for it.
100%.
But I think that's the thing with the people listening is instead of beating yourself up because whatever, because it's natural sometimes to beat ourselves up.
Right.
Go to that super self-care mode where you're just being more gentle with yourself. Maybe you're getting more sleep. Maybe you're doing something that's kind of like pampering for yourself when
Right.
like, no, I need to pack the boxes or do this or do that, which, yeah, you do need to do that. That's essential. You do that, but also adding in that self-care, just bringing
Yes.
yourself back and being aware of how important that is.
Absolutely. And that includes like self-compassion as well,
Yes,
like
yes.
being nice to yourself like you would to someone else.
Mhm.
What would you say to a friend who is in this situation? What would
Yeah.
you say to someone else who is in this position? We're generally much less patient and much less compassionate with ourselves than we are with other people. And really like leaning into the it's okay and
Yeah.
it's going to be okay. And also, every change is temporary. Change itself is, what's that expression? The only thing that doesn't change is change, or something like that.
Yeah.
Change is a constant,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But disruption is temporary.
Yeah.
Eventually, whatever the change is, you adapt and you move on, and then that becomes the new norm, whether it's
Yeah.
positive or whether it's not. But making sure that you're extra compassionate with yourself,
Mhm.
you're saying no to things that are draining your energy. We're moving far away. I want to see everybody. I want
Yeah.
to I want to spend time with everybody, but I can't. And that's, saying no is hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Aside from like the rest of the world having FOMO, and when we
Yeah,
have
so
ADHD, we
those
hate to miss out on
boundaries
stuff.
are essential too,
Yes.
which I usually connect boundaries with self-care, but not everyone
Yeah.
does. But those boundaries are super essential when you're
Yes.
going through a major life change or even a small change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you feel overloaded or tired or worn out or frazzled or, whatever, like you need to lean into, what do I need
Yes.
right now? Not always, can't always be about what should I do right now? What do I need
Yeah. Yeah.
right now? Or what can I do for
Yeah.
myself right now
Yeah.
is another way to ask that question. That's a little bit of a different way to look at it.
Yeah. And the changes we're making in our lives have been, they're stressful because they're major changes, but sometimes people have changes where they have no control over it. An
Right.
illness, a death in the family.
Absolutely.
And those are the people who really need to do that super self-care.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a client a while ago. This woman was just telling me all the stuff she'd been through in the last year. And I just stopped. It was actually on a call with a group. And I'm like, the fact that you're still alive is amazing after what you've been
Right.
through. If you're not getting places on time or you have clutter in your house, yeah, you can adjust and get to that, but just really connect with the fact that you've been through some major life stressors, and
Right.
you have that executive functioning that when you go through a major change, whether it's positive or negative, the executive functions are challenged, work differently.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and it's not, you're giving yourself a break. You're not like totally letting it go, because if you do that, then you're going to feel worse about yourself.
Right. You
But
pay the price down the
meet
road. Right.
yourself where you are and really give yourself permission to be where you are right now in the moment, because we
Yeah.
want to fix things, we want to change things, and eventually you will get there, but just be in that uneasiness, negativity. Sometimes you just have to be in it to go to get out of it.
Right. Absolutely. I like that. Meet yourself where you are.
Yeah.
And when you're meeting yourself where you are, be extra nice to yourself
Yeah.
as you're finding your way through whatever change it is, or whatever disruption, or whatever, life is giving you, or you're giving you. It really doesn't matter. And, thinking about what you need and how
Mhm.
you can make this easier for you is really important.
Yeah. I think
It really
reaching out
is.
to other people is essential too, because as you and I know, we're often our worst enemies.
Yeah,
And just,
absolutely.
even just like, you getting on the call today and me saying that thing about, if you weren't, going through that type of thing, then I'd be worried. Here's somebody outside of yourself, helping you look at it differently. And
Yes.
it can be a friend, it can be a family member, it can be a coach, a mental health professional, someone like that. But I know, like, I just go, in
Yeah.
circles in
Yeah.
my head. And when I talk to someone, or maybe it's sometimes journaling, writing things down, but reaching out to someone else and getting out of your head is important for these type of things.
It is, because when it's in your head, it takes on a life of its own, and it often doesn't need to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good stuff to think about, right? And I'm focusing on, this is temporary.
Yep.
Again, they're good changes, but they're big changes, and some
Mhm.
of them are hard changes. And, every change, every transition, every interruption has facets and elements of
Yep.
how it impacts you, physically, emotionally, cognitively, all of the above. So, reminding yourself that no change is permanent. Although change is inevitable, no
Yep.
individual change is permanent. You can get through the other side.
Yep.
And doing what you can to be nice to yourself and make it easier for yourself all along the way is so important. So I'm going to remember that. And I actually wrote down here, meet yourself where you are, as a reminder to me as I'm going through this over the next few weeks, that where I'm a believer that you are where you're supposed to be in any given moment. And, you choose to make of it what you can and what you will, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of the above. And I think we all need to remember sometimes that it's okay to be where you are right now. And you still deserve to be nice to you.
It's okay to be stressed out. It's okay to be exhausted. It's okay. Well, depending on who you're lashing out to.
I was gonna say it's okay to be grouchy.
Just but I think if you know that, okay, I'm stressed, I might be a super, what to someone. So what can I do? So before I, tell someone off or somebody pushes my buttons more than they would have when I was in a different situation.
Yes.
So
absolutely. And if I do let somebody push my buttons, which I did recently, and had a stronger reaction than I would normally have had, and a different kind of reaction than I would normally have had, rather than beating myself up and going into that shame spiral that I spent so many years in over the years, over my earlier years, I just came back and apologized. And it's not an excuse. It's just, I'm sorry, I'm going through a lot. And, I reacted in a way that I'm not proud of. So, again, you're human. We're all human.
Most people, when you reach out to them like that, they're very accepting. If they're not, then they're probably not meant to be in your life anyways,
No. And then if they're not, then they've got their own stuff going on.
It's more about
them react that way. Yeah, absolutely. Not easy.
Is there anything that we haven't discussed today about changes and adjustments that you want to bring up, Lynne?
The one thing I was thinking about is I'm always trying to think about what I can do to make life for future Lynne easier. So I always think to myself about tomorrow, Lynne, and tomorrow not necessarily being 24 hours from now, but what can I do now to make life for tomorrow, Lynne, a little easier, to make life, to make tomorrow Lynne's day a little easier, to make tomorrow Lynne's load a little easier. So thinking now about, once the movers, deliver the stuff, what am I going to need what do I want to have accessible? What's going to make my life easier? What can I do now, to make coming out of this transition easier for myself? So I often frame it with my clients and in my groups as setting yourself up for success, but just taking a moment to think about, how can you make life easier for yourself when things do start to settle down? Are there things you want to be reminded of? Are there tools, systems, processes, things that you were doing that were helpful and working well for you before things got wonky that you want to make sure you go back to? So thinking about, I call it reentry, or, hooking tomorrow you up, for an easier and more successful life. But thinking about that as you think of those things, how can you remember in the future to come back to those things? So that would be the thing that comes to mind for me. Anything for you?
Yeah, I mean, that puts you a bit into the future, and you're feeling that positive, peaceful energy too, when you're in the future. So you're not just coming up with strategies, you're putting yourself into the future and you're feeling that peacefulness. So I just think a lot of what we talked about, but I think the big thing to reiterate that is just, meet yourself where you are and give yourself a break. You're not letting it go. You're just, if you beat yourself up, it's going to make it worse. If you practice that super self-care and be gentle with yourself, that's going to really help you not only now, but in the future.
Absolutely. You're not abdicating responsibility.
Yes.
You're cutting yourself a break.
Yes.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Awesome.
Okay, well, I think we are at the end of the episode. Any final thoughts you want to share, Lynne? And you definitely make sure you give out your contact information again.
Absolutely. I think the theme is, and I'm going to carry this with me as well, is as Tara aptly said, meet yourself where you are and be nice to you, no matter what's going on, no matter, what's not going well, you still deserve your own compassion. You still deserve to be kind to yourself. So again, I'm Lynne Edris. You can learn more about me and what I do at my website. It's coachingadvantages.com.
And I'm Tara McGillicuddy. You can learn more about me at taramcgillicuddy.com. Also, be sure to go to ADHDsupporttalk.com, where you can find all our past episodes. You can join our Facebook group, and you can contact us. Thanks again, everyone.